This is Tom Schreiber, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
Tom Schreiber. Sidearm whip, scores!
Now it's one, Fidel scores! Hands off for Rabel, switches hands and scores!
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson!
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam. Together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. We are pumped to have you guys for another episode of Pro Lacrosse Talk today. Adam, how was your weekend?
It was great, man. You know, I just started coaching at Boys Latin here in Baltimore, and we had our first fall ball tournament this weekend with the guys, which was a blast. So started the weekend off with some lacrosse and ready to start the week with some as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Congrats on the new gig. I don't think I've told you that yet. So, you know, we're looking forward to hopefully having some of your current players on our podcast in 5 to 6 years, right? But yeah, no, we're pumped about this NLL season. You know, that starts this weekend. We're going to be talking about that. I'll also be talking about the MLL's content strategy a little bit, WPLL and PLL's trip to Japan, and the future of fantasy lacrosse, and why we could see the PLL officially introduce its own fantasy sports platform next season. But before we go into all that, let's start off with our quick stick and recap some news from this month. So Paul Rabel revealed that the 7th PLL team name will be announced in early December, so expect to hear some news from that in the next 2 weeks. In the meantime, be sure to check out our proposed designs for a team name on our website and social media. We had a lot of fun with that, and you know, got a lot of good feedback from that as well. So, you know, check those out. Hopefully you guys like them. If not, you know, it was fun doing it regardless. And next in our quick stick, we have Coach Nat St. Laurent has signed a 2-year extension with the Redwoods, so he'll helm the team until 2021 at the very least. You know, right now we've seen 2 coaches that will not return next year. It's nice to kind of see that Coach St. Laurent will be back with the Redwoods. Good news for them, and good news for the Redwoods faithful. Next, we have Paul Rabel announced that jersey upgrades will be coming for the PLL next season. How drastic they will be, we don't know, but we know that the PLL hopes to kind of make merchandise a major revenue stream for them, kind of like European soccer does. So this move isn't very surprising. They have a lot of deals on their website right now, so trying to get rid of those jerseys from last year. So, you know, who knows how drastic the change will be. I really liked the uniforms last year, so hopefully they don't change them too much, but it is something to, you know, watch this off season. In the NLL, they announced earlier this month that they will play a game in Vegas the Saturday before the Super Bowl, with the Seals hosting the Mammoth. This game is big for 2 reasons. One, it's during one of the biggest gambling weekends in Vegas, and the NLL is looking to introduce gambling in the near future, so that's big. Number 2, we know that MGM Resorts has submitted an application for an expansion team earlier this year, so this will be a good test for the Lax Vegas market to see if they could maybe, you know, handle a team. And finally, Paul Bissonette of the Spittin' Chicklets hockey podcast tweeted out that he thought he could play in the NLL without having any prior experience. Set lacrosse Twitter in a firestorm. Everyone was, you know, calling him out, saying, you know, he didn't know what it took. And the Warriors actually took him up on that offer and gave him a shot at training camp. So they released a video on that recently on how he did. But let's kind of end our quick stick there and kind of dive into this. At first, you know, I was kind of like a lot of people. I was kind of up in arms for him suggesting that he could just jump into the NLL and that it was, you know, just like playing in the NHL, only without skates, which it obviously isn't. Then as it started to progress a little bit more and, you know, he started throwing some other tweets out there, I kind of, you know, talked to you. Like maybe this might be just an elaborate PR stunt by the NLL, and it kind of turned out to be that, whether they had planned on him tweeting that out originally or not.
You know, it's great publicity for the league, to be honest with you. Paul has over 1 million followers on Twitter, and him tweeting about this league that maybe not all of his followers know about, most likely all of his followers don't know about, can only be great for the league. It's free publicity. I did love that in his interview afterwards, he talked about, hey, maybe if he could put some rollerblades on, it would be a better league, or he would have a better shot, which is funny because the original founders of the NLL actually considered, when they were coming up with the concept, putting the league on rollerblades. So I don't think Paul probably had any knowledge of that based off of him calling it his stick a racket and whatnot. But great publicity for the NLL at large. I know he didn't make the squad, but, you know, he's going to help promote the Vancouver squad and the league at large. So I'm looking forward to seeing his support of the league. And like I said, he has a lot of followers, a lot of fans when it comes to his podcast. So it can't hurt.
Yeah, no, he'll be there opening night. I thought the video the Warriors put out was great. I like when he said that he had the wrong he had the wrong racket.
Yep.
And that really it was, there's no difference between a lefty and a righty stick like in hockey. So I thought that was kind of funny. All around a great job. And like you mentioned too, it's going to bring a new audience to the sport because we've talked to two different NLL players right now, Logan Schuss and Randy Stotts, who listen to Spittin' Chicklets. So if you know that there's some lacrosse guys listening to a hockey podcast, you can only imagine that some hockey guys listening to the podcast are going to want to tune in to lacrosse and hear what that's all about. It's great cross-promotion for the league.
Yeah.
Really brilliant move by them. Set lacrosse Twitter on fire when it was first announced, and I think they got the reaction that they wanted. They got that publicity, and I'm looking forward to his partnership with the Warriors as the season progresses, and hopefully growing this league, to a more mainstream audience, because that's what's important. You can get the lacrosse fans on board, but you also want to get net new fans as well, and I think that's a great way to do it. But let's kind of dive into the NLL and more serious topics. We have face-off weekend this weekend. We have 3 games that are going to be taking place. So before we discuss our picks, we'll get to those later. Let's kind of just go with our way too early picks to win each division. And I'll start off. I think the Seals are my hot take to win the extremely competitive West Division. I think healthy Austin Stotts is going to be key. He's coming off of ACL surgery, so hopefully he's fully recovered now. But he was having a stellar season last year until he went down. Obviously won Rookie of the Year honors even after missing those 4 games of the season. Kyle Buchanan will be back, and they have added Wes Berg, who played with Calgary last year, so that's a huge addition. And I do think they'll miss Dan Dawson's presence a little bit. He signed with the Rock this summer, but they'll still have the veteran presence of Brody Merrill there. So I don't think they'll lack any senior leadership on that squad. So I'm just excited for them, and kind of looking to see some guys like Connor Fields make big strides in their second NLL season. That's my pick for the West. It's going to be very competitive. I think we could see 3 and maybe even 4 teams come out of that division. You'll get the first and second place of the West Division, but you'll also get 2 wild card spots. And I think with the Mammoth, Roughnecks, and Rush all poised for a competitive season, they could be in the mix, and you can't overlook the Warriors either. But who's your pick to win the West, Adam?
Yeah, I'm going to have to stick with this team that was still standing at the end of the season and go with the Calgary Roughnecks. They're returning players like Dane Doby, who had a fantastic playoff run, Curtis Dixon, and Reese Dutch also had a great first year after moving over for the Roughnecks last year. And I know I'm biased when it comes to the guys in cage, but Christian Del Bianco solidified himself as arguably the top goalie in the entire league last year. So I'd have to go with Calgary. And, they bring in rookies like Travis Getz, who's a hometown Calgary guy, and has been playing pretty well in the preseason. So I'm going to have to stick with the team that won it last year and go with the Roughnecks.
Yeah, no, I like that you mentioned Del Bianco. I mean, he played unreal in that playoff run.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be tough to knock off. And like I said, this West is going to be really competitive. You can't overlook the Mammoth, who surprised people and beat the Rush in the first round last year, and then made it to the semifinals. And they're going to be matching up against each other this weekend at face-off weekend. The Rush, nothing to bat an eye at either. With Mark Matthews and Ben McIntosh leading that team. So yeah, it's going to be a competitive West. I definitely think that's the most competitive division. Obviously the NLL in general is going to be really competitive with these 13 teams. A lot of shake-up because of those 2 expansion teams coming into the league. But let's transition now to this newly formed North Division. I really like the Thunderbirds to return to form. The newly christened Thunderbirds. They were the Rochester Nighthawks last year, moved to Halifax, finished 6-12 last year. I think they're going to bounce back. They have Cody Jamieson as the veteran leader of that team in the final year of his contract, so he's probably looking to prove something and prove that he still has plenty left in the tank. You have the presence of team-leading scorer Kyle Jackson and the 2017-2018 Defensive Player of the Year, Graham Hosick, who's a force on defense. So I think they're well-balanced on both sides of the ball. I'd like to see guys like Chris Bucci and Eric Fennell coming back after stellar rookie seasons and really do well in their sophomore campaign. And I love the addition of Clark Peterson in this year's draft, and they kept their core group intact. So I think Micah Kersey's squad is going to really surprise some people this year, and Halifax showed that they could show out in terms of fan attendance. They had over 14,000 people there at their preseason game, so they're obviously excited about lacrosse coming to Nova Scotia, and they're my pick to win the North.
You know what? I'm agreeing with you, and I went with the Thunderbirds as well. And we talked about Del Bianco with the Roughnecks. I'm curious to see what Halifax is going to do in cage, whether it's Warren Hill in cage or Peter Dubinsky for the Thunderbirds going forward. But both solid guys, both looking to get that shot as starters in the league, and I'm looking forward to that competition brings success. Hopefully for Micah Kersey, that's the case.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we'd be foolish to ignore another team that's definitely going to, make a push for it in the North, and the Bandits. Coach Johnny T's squad in Bandit Land, they're returning Dane Smith, who signed a new deal, as well as, Josh Byrne. I think this team is going to be, still a solid squad. They lost a few guys to the expansion draft. Sean Evans, I think, is a big piece that they might be lacking. He's going to the new Rochester Nighthawks. So, but I think this team's still solid. I think, they're also a favorite, but, I think we both like the Thunderbirds and their makeup. It's going to be another competitive one. You can't ignore Toronto Rock, too. They added guys like we mentioned, Dan Dawson, to the squad, and they're returning, guys like Challen Rogers and Tom Schreiber. Can't be ignored there either.
No, I agree. And when it comes to the Bandits, we talked about how important it is to have a strong goalie. And when you have a guy like Matt Vincent Cage, one of the most seasoned professionals in the league, you can't go wrong.
No, absolutely. But let's segue into our final division, the East. I want to take the Swarm to win the East. You have Randy Stotts, Brian Cole, Shane Jackson, Zed Williams, Lyle Miles Thompson at forward. They're strong in transition with Jordan McIntosh, Brendan Bomberry. He had 7 goals in 2 preseason games. I mean, just rattling off all those names that they have. They have so much depth. And then the defensive side of the ball, Joel White, Leo Storos, Matt Dunn, and then netminder Mike Poulin, has been there for years, and he won that championship with them in 2017. And they'll definitely miss John Rannigan and Holden Catoni to those expansion teams. But they're stacked on all facets of the ball, so they're my pick to win the East.
Yeah, and I think the Swarm are the easy pick when it comes to this division. But a squad that had a rough first season in the league, but I expect a lot bigger things from is Philadelphia. And I know I'm being a little bit of a homer when I talk about Philly. But if you look at their roster, 2 guys that I expect big things from, Brett Hickey and Kevin Crawley. Hickey, one of their top picks in the expansion draft last year, only was able to play 3 or 4 games last year, and I expect big things from him. Kevin Crawley came in 4 or 5 games into the season after the Wings traded 2 of their first-round picks going forward to bring him back to Philly. And so I expect big things from those 2 guys. And Keel Matisse, what was the big name for the Wings last year when it comes to production? I expect a lot of great things from him going forward. So when it comes to the offense, I think they'll look a little bit different. And then you have new to the box game guys like Matt Rambo and Trevor Baptiste had pretty successful seasons last year, and both guys ended up playing in the Indoor World Championships, which is great for the U.S. and great for both of their developments when it comes to the box games. So I see an upward trajectory when it comes to the Wings roster. They lost their first round pick because of that Crawley trade, but they brought in some young talent that I expect big things from. So look for the Wings to bounce back from last year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And another presence in that division is the Black Wolves. Led by Brett Manny. They just got Andrew Q in the draft, so they could also make a splash. Made the playoffs last year. I'm sure they're looking to go a little bit farther this year. So can't sleep on them. And the Riptide, they made a lot of moves too in that expansion draft. So I don't want to sleep on them just yet. I think Ty Gibson is probably the most ready out of all the NLL draftees, and that's why he went number 1 overall. But so again, can't sleep on them as well. It's going to be a highly competitive NLL season, but those are our picks for this year. We also are going to be making a lot of other picks. We're doing our NLL Fantasy Lacrosse Pick'em Challenge. We did it similarly with PLL playoffs. We're doing it the whole season for the NLL, and we're excited to announce that we are partnering again with Epic Lacrosse on this weekly NLL Fantasy Lacrosse Pick'em Challenge. They will be giving weekly prizes as well as a grand prize at the end of the season. And Epic is a major supplier for the NLL, major partner with them. they're doing a lot of great things in the field game, and they're doing a lot of great things in the box game. They sponsor athletes like Matt Rambo, Jules Henningberg, and Randy Stotts. So, we're excited to be partnering with one of the premier brands on this fantasy challenge. And we really appreciate their support and them providing these prizes for you guys each weekend, the grand prize. We're excited too. We'll announce that a little bit later, but stay tuned for that, and just make sure you guys sign up so you guys have your best chance to win that weekly challenge and the overall grand prize. So make sure you guys go out, sign up, fill out your roster. The rosters are now available for this first weekend. So fill out a roster. The point system is going to work similarly to how we did it before, but you're going to have 7 guys that you start. You'll have 3 forwards. You'll have 3 defensive/transition players, and then you'll have 1 goalie in cage. Point system, you're going to have 1 point for a goal, 1 point for an assist, 1 point for a caused turnover, and then 0.25 points for a loose ball. And then goalies will get 0.25 for a save and minus 0.25 for a goal allowed. So that's the scoring, a little bit more basic than what we've done in the past, but it'll be easier to score, easier for you guys to follow, and hopefully a lot of fun. So make sure you guys sign up so you can win some prizes. But now that we're at the topic of fantasy lacrosse, that's kind of our little stamp on the fantasy lacrosse space, but there's going to be a little bit more coming this next year, not out of us, but out of the PLL. If you guys listen to Front Office Sports' Office Hours podcast with Mike and Paul Rabel, they discussed in detail what they want to bring to PLL next year in terms of gambling and fantasy sports. And Paul said that they will have a fantasy game for 2020. Now, what that will look like, we don't know. We know the PLL already experimented with prop bets within their bracket challenge that they did last year. They included a variety of, fun prop bet questions for participants. No money on the line or anything, but you can tell they were testing the waters a little bit with this. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Adam, that the PLL will be introducing fantasy in 2020?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Paul and Mike have in store when it comes to the fantasy side of things. They've been innovative in so many ways with this league. I'm excited to see how they drop the types of fantasy options there are. And when it comes to the gambling side of things, I think you'll want to touch that a little bit. But leagues have been starting the opportunity to bet on plays, so live action opportunities when it comes to gambling. So whether who wins at this face off could be a potential option, or those types of things. So it'll be interesting to see what they put out there for the fantasy side of things, but also the gambling side of things going forward.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned the real-time gambling, and that's what they talked about. I mean, we know the PLL is innovative in so many different fronts. I mean, that podcast was very telling of what they have in store, so I really recommend you guys listen to it if you haven't. But a few things they talked about is not only the prop bets before games, but giving fans real-time data for gambling. So they talked about having players wear wearables like Fitbits, and being able to make informed betting decisions based on a player's heart rate, hydration, fatigue. I mean, that's never been done before.
Yeah.
But could you imagine knowing, like, okay, Will Manny is at 90% his stamina, and then making an informed bet on whether Will Manny is going to score 2 goals in the fourth quarter? Like, that's what we're looking at here. So I don't know. I'm really excited. Check out my article on our website for a more detailed look on what Paul and Mike discussed on that podcast. I kind of break down some of the things they talk about. And we're just really excited. We've done our own fantasy challenge for the PLL. We're doing one with the NLL. And we kind of see that as more of just a stepping stone, kind of giving people what they wanted in terms of fantasy sports right now and what we can do with our resources. But we're excited that the leagues themselves are going to be getting involved, because we're limited in what we can provide you guys. We really enjoy providing you the weekly pick'em challenge, but we'd love to see actual full team leagues, full team drafts where you can compete with your friends, or like the gambling side, making these prop bets before games. We're really excited about that, and obviously we can't give you guys that in our limited resources, but when the leagues get involved, that's when things really start to get exciting. So kudos to Paul and Mike for being really forward thinking in that. And we knew when we started our little fantasy lacrosse challenge that would be coming. We didn't know how soon, and we're excited that we'll hopefully be getting something in 2020. But yeah, that's it for our fantasy discussion. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll discuss the PLL and WPLL's visit to Japan, as well as our thoughts on the MLL's content strategy this offseason. But before we do that, let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. We've been using Anchor for our podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast so it sounds great and send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Better yet, they connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. All right, so welcome back. The WPLL and the PLL just got back from their Japan trip, which saw 16 PLL players and 15 WPLL players attend. The WPLL had actually been there a year prior as well, so this is their second time going back. And, you know, it looked like it was a really rewarding trip. I think it's great for the growth of the game. We want to thank, too, like Molly Stevens, Taylor Van Thoff, and Romar Dennis for their Instagram takeovers and providing, you know, you guys an inside look on our Instagram of that Japan trip. You know, hopefully they enjoyed doing that for us as well. Looked like a lot of fun. And it's bigger than just, you know, a trip for these athletes to go see another country. I mean, Japan has really exploded in the past 10 years in terms of lacrosse. You even had Ai Hirose join the WPLL, and she was discovered last Japan trip. They did like a clinic tryout type scenario when they were there last year, and they saw her. She popped up on their radar, and she ended up signing, you know, with the Brave this past summer and playing for them. So, you know, it's really showing that there is a lot of international growth. There's still a lot to be you know, discussed, but I think that it's really good for the growth of the game. We really enjoyed what they got out of that, and, you know, I think, you know, you talked about, Adam, too, how important it is, you know, to grow the professional game as well and kind of show them what, you know, it is like to be a professional lacrosse athlete.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's fantastic to grow the game. And, you know, you talked to Dana Doby on one of our previous pods, so go check that out about the growth of the sport, specifically at the Olympic level. Right, we're looking to grow sport in a variety of ways, and access at the Olympics is going to be a big push for the Lacrosse Federation and this type of platform for professional leagues to grow their sport and to kind of shed light on their game is only going to be a positive outlook. And, you know, not only is it a great opportunity to grow the game, but it looked like the players had a lot of fun while they were doing it too, you know. So overall, great opportunities for the players and a good opportunity for the sport to grow overall internationally.
Yeah, there's a lot of great content from both leagues on that Japan trip. But let's kind of discuss another league that's been producing a lot of content. Some of it good, some of it bad. In the MLL, you know, they're obviously trying to make sure that they stay relevant, and they've been putting out a lot of content. Like I said, some of it has been great. You know, they've done articles like on Japanese player Kai Iwamoto of Native American Month. They did, you know, content on Randy Stotts and Lyle Thompson. They talked about Steele Stanwick's involvement in the community. You know, they've done a lot of great stuff on that. And then you've had a mix of articles like announcing potential viewership and growing the game to, you know, over 150,000 fans, you know, stuff that we can't really even tangibly know.
Yeah.
The viewership itself was frustrating to me because you can't say potential viewership based on how many households a platform reaches. That's like if movie companies said they had potential viewership based on the number of theaters that their movies was shown in. You know, it's based on ticket sales. When it comes to viewership, it comes to TV ratings and how many people actually tune into your product. I just hate how they said potential viewership of over 724 million. That's not accurate, you know. Obviously, yeah, you had a broadcast deal with ESPN, but you were shown mostly on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. I don't know. As someone in the broadcast industry, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It's just not factually true, you know, and it just shows that they're still too concerned with playing catch-up with the PLL, and they're too concerned about trying to compete with the PLL because obviously the PLL had some great numbers with NBC. that's not where they should be focused. I know me and you talk about it all the time is, they need to lean on their strengths. Their strengths are their community involvement. We talked to Nick Morocco. The Cannons Foundation has done so much in the community. Give us more articles like that. And they have been. They have been doing a lot of articles on not only guys that are in the league right now, but past guys too. They had a nice little cool feature on Nicky Polanco and Brian Spallina, two legends of the MLL. So they did a nice alumni feature on them. Same with Mark Millen. These are the things they should be leaning on. They have 20 years of history to work with. Lean on that if you're trying to get fans. Don't tell us, some bogus statistic like 724 million potential viewers. Potential doesn't mean anything to me. I want to know how many people actually tuned in. And by saying that you had a potential viewership, you're probably implying to me that it wasn't a very good viewership to begin with. So that's kind of disheartening for me. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. This came out, a few weeks ago, but that's just my advice for the MLL. Don't try to compete with the other leagues by, doing the same thing they're doing. Lean on your own strengths. Again, community involvement. They have, international player features. Just lean on that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I think we talked off pod a large bit throughout the season about reactionary moves by them, and I think for them to be sustainable, like you said, they need to go to those grassroots efforts, those opportunities to engage with their communities. I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to cover the championship celebration for the Bayhawks, and their content staff did a fantastic job putting on that event for the local community, right? For the Annapolis area and Chesapeake area community. And they did a fantastic job putting that event together. And those are the types of connections that a league like the MLL should continue to solidify and continue to grow, are those opportunities for communities to engage with their players, to engage with the fan, and then vice versa, the players with the fans. So those types of opportunities for engagement are super important for the sustainability of the MLL going forward.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And like I said, it's they lean on your strengths. The competing league is not in any specific city, so they can't do that. They can go around, and have different trips to areas. They've done that with the PLL Academy, but you as a franchise based in a city like Boston, like Annapolis, like Denver, have that opportunity to actually really engage with these youth markets, and get them 2 games every season, every game each season. Whereas, you can't do that in a touring model. So lean on that strength. I just think it's foolish for them to try to, again, be reactionary with some of these articles. And again, that's probably 15-20% of their content. A lot of it has been really good. We mentioned they even did recently, NLL players to watch that play in the MLL. That's kind of the first time they've really acknowledged that. It used to be kind of the leagues where I don't want to say at odds, but, didn't cross-promote. That's another key thing. You have plenty of athletes playing in both leagues. Do some opportunities for cross-promotion for both leagues. So that's my advice. Again, we try to call it fairly. We're not biased towards any league here. We want to just see these leagues succeed because for us it's more professional lacrosse. And
we talked a little bit, kind of on the same lines with the Paul Bissonnette thing. I'm almost curious, like with the viewership numbers. How much was the MLL getting talked about in mainstream lacrosse media currently, or the Twitterverse, right? It was sure talked about a lot when those couple articles did drop. So just something to throw out there. They're getting a lot more press than they might have gotten in previous seasons if that type of content hadn't been put out.
That's true, definitely. But I don't always view it as any publicity is good publicity.
Understood. No, I know.
Yeah, I like that. I like you playing devil's advocate here, but yeah, I don't know. It's true. They are getting talked about a little bit more that way, but I think they want to get talked about for the right reasons.
Sure.
So. But that kind of wraps up that discussion. We're gonna get into our NLL picks, but before we do, let's hear another word from our sponsor, and then we'll dive in and start this NLL season. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, the Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. All right, welcome back. Now it's time to dive into our first weekend of the NLL. We're excited about these 3 games this weekend, so let's dive right in. Friday, we have the Rush. We'll visit the Mammoth in a rematch of round 1 of the playoffs of last year. Adam, who are you picking?
You know, based off of last year, I'm excited to see this rematch. Teams look a little bit different, but I'm going to go with the Mammoth in this one. I think Dylan Ward, coming off a strong season in the outdoor game, continue his indoor success, start off the week 1 with a W for the Mammoth.
All right, well, I'm going to go Rush. I think, losing last year kind of left a sour taste in their mouth. I think they had lofty goals to get back to that championship game. I think they're hungry again. So I'm going to pick them to overcome the Mammoth team this weekend on Friday. Then following that game, you'll have the defending champion Roughnecks taking on the Vancouver Warriors. Who do you like in this one, Adam?
I think I'm going to take the returning champions. I don't think you can pick them to lose until they do. I'm going to go with the Roughnecks.
Yeah, I'm going with the Roughnecks as well. Again, can't disrespect the defending champs in their first game back. I think the Vancouver Warriors will give them a good game. I think Warriors definitely got better this offseason, but again, the Roughnecks looking to repeat. And they have a core group still with them, so I'm going to pick them as well. And then finally on Saturday, we have the Georgia Swarm will take on the Rochester Nighthawks in the expansion team's first game. Who do you like in this game, Adam?
I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to go with an upset in this one. I'm picking the Nighthawks. I think they're going to be rocking for their first home game in their new Army Green look for the Rochester faithful who are super excited to still have a team there in Rochester. So I'm going Nighthawks.
All right, well, I'm going to take the Swarm. I talked about earlier how loaded they are on all facets of the ball. So, I think they're going to come out. It's going to be a high-scoring affair. And I think you're going to have the Thompson brothers put up some points in the season opener for the Swarm. But that wraps up our game picks. Adam came up out on top during the summer league, so hopefully I can
still need that steak.
Dethrone him in the box game this NLL season. But yeah, that wraps up our game picks and our podcast. But before we go, we want to just tease that we have partnered with Design Tree, known in the custom apparel space for doing some great work there. We were super excited to partner with them, and they already have some Pro Lacrosse Talk and Fantasy Lacrosse t-shirts and hoodies up on their site, as well as my expansion team designs that you can get shirts of. So if you liked any of my designs that I put out, you can buy it in a shirt format. And they're offering $10 off your first order if you use the code DSGN10. So definitely check out Design Tree. Check out our designs up there. We're going to have even more coming up in the near future. But go get some merch from Pro Lacrosse Talk on Design Tree. And finally, too, we just want to remind everyone to sign up for Fantasy Lacrosse. We mentioned that we're partnering with Epic to be giving away weekly prizes. We're going to reveal those prizes a little bit later, but, I think you guys will be pretty satisfied with that. And then we have the Epic Grand Prize Pack as well at the end of the season. So give yourself the best chance of winning that prize pack by participating every week and sign up now. We gave away Epic PLL All-Star gloves last season. So if that's any indication of what could be in store for this year's grand prize, you should definitely check it out. But thank you guys for listening. Any parting thoughts, Adam?
Just super excited to get going with the indoor league and the NLL, and we'll be bringing you some great content throughout the season. So keep an eye out for all of our NLL talk going forward.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're both really pumped about it. But that wraps up episode 43. Thank you all for listening. Please subscribe and consider leaving us a review, and we hope you tune in next time to Pro Lacrosse Talk.